My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And that's right, it's time for an episode of Judd's Hockey Show, which right now, Judd and AJ, a podcast without a team, because the Wild is been at home since the playoffs started. As we're watching all these great playoff games, the Wild not part of it. Now, I will say, thankfully, they didn't make the playoffs, because if they had made the playoffs, then we don't get the Stars and the Golden Knights in that marvelous 7-game first round. So the Wild right where they belonged, which is sitting at home. But that brings us to today's topic. Our guy, AJ, who around the holiday season last gave us, his prospect rankings, is going to do so again, updated now. And keep in mind, the draft lottery is tomorrow. So we're recording this on Monday. It's on Tuesday. The Wild currently slated to draft 13th. There is a chance they could drop back as far as 15th. There also is a very small chance that they could actually move up. You can only move up 10 spots potentially. So the highest they could go is 3rd. But probably should assume until we know otherwise that they're going to draft 13th, which is why AJ Fredrickson comes to us with a top 15 ranking of prospects, playing off what he said around Christmas and obviously updating that.
Yeah, and just for the breakdown numerically, the odds for what the Wild can do tomorrow night, there is a 90.7% chance that they sit exactly where they're at, 13th overall, and more than likely, like you said, Judd, that's exactly where they're going to be. But they can, if they hit that stroke of luck, the Minnesota Wild get that lightning in a bottle for the first time in what feels like ever, they can jump all the way up to third overall with a 4.2% chance. However, on the flip side of that, they can have a 5.1% chance of dropping back a spot to 14th. And then there's the tiniest little thing that actually, it's the same percentage amount that gets them to either 4th overall, 5th overall, or hold your breath, 15th overall. So you drop back 2 spots, worst case scenario.
Gotcha.
So we'll just breeze past these first 2 guys that there's really no shot at all that the Wild even have a chance at sniffing these guys' gym bags. So we might as well just breeze past them here.
Sure.
But holiday time, it didn't matter. He's been the consensus number 1. Macklin Celebrini, Boston University, Hobie Award winner, doing so as one of the youngest guys in the NCAA. Everything about him projects as an impact superstar at the NHL level. What I said about the holiday time, I think still rings true. He's not in that Bedard, McDavid, Crosby tier of kind of a generational talent. He's going to be a superstar, but he's in that kind of secondary of a Jack Hughes, a Jack Eichel. He's a guy to build around. So if you're a San Jose Sharks fan watching this for whatever reason, welcome in, first of all. But this is a guy you want on your roster, and God forbid he goes to the Chicago Blackhawks.
Which
what a
is possible.
piece that would be. Yeah. Next, so he's in a tier of his own. First off,
Right,
so
he's off. Yes, he's going first.
Yes,
no chance.
We drop down here to what I say is tier 2 with the Russian product of Ivan Demidov. He's a right winger. I had him at 2 as well back around the holiday season. He played in St. Petersburg. He's 5'11", 181 pounds. This past season in the MHL, he had 23 goals, 60 points in 30 games. He's continued to impress scouts pretty much the entire season as it's drawn on. I think that he's cemented himself as the number 2 pick, unless a team at this spot thinks that we value a high quality top tier defenseman over anything else. We don't care about offense. We don't care about getting a impact winger. Defense is the way to go. That's the only case that I think he doesn't go here. He's a human highlight reel. His shooting is above average, but it's his playmaking, stick handling, and skating ability that like wows you. This is a guy that I think once again, if you miss out on Celebrini, the Blackhawks add this. This is essentially going to be their Crosby, Malkin additions that the Penguins got over a decade ago.
Yep.
Unfortunate news for Wild fans, but that's probably going to be the case. Demidov reigns in at number 2 for me.
Okay.
Going to my number 3 spot, still in tier 2. This would be the best case for the Minnesota Wild. They jump up. They hit that 4.2% chance and jump all the way past those teams up to the 3rd spot.
Okay.
Artem Levshinov, Michigan State right-handed defenseman. I had him 4th back around the holiday season. He's now moved up a spot since the conclusion of the college year. 6'2", 208 pounds. He had 9 goals and 35 points in 38 games played. And I know you're going to say, but AJ, some of these other numbers we're hearing from guys that I have at 5, 6, whatever, 9, blow this guy out of the water.
Right.
Ignore it. Ignore it. Because he is the complete package. He is the best defenseman in the draft, period. No question. That's it. The way that he plays, like with confidence and looseness in his game, it's matched when you pair it with like heady passing, great skating, good physicality. He's got an elite compete level. If you think baseball, they talk about like a 5-tool guy, power, speed, contact, fielding, that type of stuff. This is a 5-tool defenseman. He can really do it all. He's got the foundation to be a high-level two-way NHL defenseman at the NHL level. He impacts the play in both the offensive and defensive zones. And the thing is, his development seems to have only increased since the holidays. So, like, I'd be shocked if there's another defenseman taken before Levshunov in this draft. He's the other guy that I think could go 2, but I think he probably goes 3, and rightfully so.
Interesting. So is he and where does he stand as far as the track of his career? Would he come out?
I think you could probably get him going right away next season. Like he's been with Michigan State for a few years now,
which has become a good team.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Like he's on a good team, so you do kind of see him reap the benefits of that. But this is a guy that I think in 5 years from now, you're thinking he is in the Norris conversation for. This is a guy that's going to kind of break the Norris role, because it's not going to be just a points galore type of thing. I think he's going to almost do what this is maybe high praise, but a more defensive Roman Josi, if that makes sense. Like he's got the offensive talent, but it's his defensive game that really, I think, wows a little bit as well. So the makings of an elite NHL defenseman, 2 ways he's going to be an impact guy. Can
you imagine him on a blue line with Faber, Brodin, and that group?
Oof. I mean, it would be an instant addition that makes that team basically just get.
I love
some
defensemen. You know me, man. I love defensemen. You can build around them.
So we move out of tier 2 into tier 3 here. First, I would say relatively big jump from my holidays. This is Caden Lindstrom. He's a center. Medicine Hat, I had him at 8 around our last time talking about this. He's jumped up to now 4.
Medicine Hat, I love that.
6'4", 210 pounds.
Yep.
This guy's an athletic freak. 46 points, 27 goals in 32 games played with the Tigers up in the WHL. His great size, elite of physicality. His overall athleticism and knack for the offensive zone has scouts describe him as one scout described him as, quote, a high scoring wrecking ball. This is like a power forward in the most basic definition. He's safely projected as a second line center, but there is a good probability that he bumps up to a first line center as well. And just like the physical tools and the high end skating make him a nightmare to deal with on the ice. He's drawn comparisons to LA's Quinton Byfield, where we saw after he got drafted, like it took a little bit to maybe find that game in the NHL, but you're seeing more of the product that he was projected as originally. Yeah. This is, I think, a more ready reincarnation of that. He's got all the tools. Maybe right now the skill is lesser, but I think his ceiling is slightly higher than what a Byfield was.
And you said he's 6'4"?
6'4".
Because I think sometimes when you reach the National Hockey League at a younger age as well, it takes you some time to, if this makes sense, grow into that size against men. So like that can take some time. Because Byfield at his best is unbelievable, but there's still times where you can tell. But you know what? Centers, like defensemen, can't have enough of them. That's an interesting one too, because now, not that I'm projecting that the Wild's going to get to 3rd, or as you said, there's a very small chance of 4th or 5th, but it's interesting because that's the type of thing that would allow you, if they truly are going to try to trade Rossi, to be more comfortable doing that. And 6'4" over the long haul does intrigue me.
And that guy was weird because I don't know if you remember this, but he originally he had height subtracted at some like combine measurement thing that he did at the start of the year. So he was 6'4". He got downgraded to like 6'3¼ He's now back to 6'4". So he either grew or they remeasured and the taping was right. I'm not sure. But yeah, to your point exactly, like you get up to third, you say, and this goes back to our conversation with Bill Guerin, where he seems like they feel relatively set at defense. This is that power offensive forward. He's big, he's physical, he's got the skill. That would make it a little easier in my mind to understand why you trade a Marco Rossi, even though I still maybe don't agree with it. Moving on to the 5 spot here. We're going to stay at the center position, going from the 7th ranking up to 5 here. Spokane Chiefs center Berkeley Catton. He's 5'11", 170 pounds. He had 54 goals, 116 points in 68 games this year in the WHL with the Chiefs. He's a slippery playmaker. A pro at using space to kind of like bait in that defenseman, draw them out of position. And whether you could argue that that's maybe just like the experience level at that level of play, but he seems to be able to have that kind of gamesmanship and understand the weaknesses in the opponent to then exploit it. It's tough to kind of compare him back to back with a guy like Lindstrom, just because the sizing is such a disparity there, where you're going to say he's probably undersized, but his defensive stick is so active where in the neutral zone and high in the offensive zone, you see him kind of take the puck off the opponent, and then using his skating ability, he'll just like in a snap of the eye, he's going to transition to offense. So that's kind of where you would say you can overlook the lack of size when you're going back to back in these guys, but projected to be a top 6 forward, slight number 1 upside with a guy that a lot of scouts say just his motor never quits. Like it could be 5 minutes left in the third and he's played 25 minutes already. He's still going at 110% pace. So this is a guy that I think a lot of coaches are going to love. And from what I understand, he's very coachable to kind of change and adapt his game when needed. Moving forward here, Sam Dickinson, left-handed defenseman, London Knights in the OHL. He's 6'3", 204 pounds. He had 18 goals, 70 points in 68 games this year. I said this on our last time talking about these prospects. He is the safest defenseman in the draft, and I still believe that. Levshinov, I think, is a luxury, but at this point in this range of picks, you cannot go wrong with a guy like Sam Dickinson because of the role that he's played with the London Knights over the past 2 seasons now. He stepped in as a super young kid, like a teenager, into a team that was making a deep run in the playoffs. He picked up a lot of minutes, and he's only done that again this season. He smothers wingers when they come into the zone. He drives them to low percentage areas. He's got a very precise stick in the defensive zone. And the thing is, he was more of the defensive style guy, and that's kind of all he really was. Since we last talked the past couple of months, his offensive game weirdly took a big uptick. So now scouts are saying, you know what, he's got upside to be a decent two-way guy that maybe specializes on a PK or in his defensive zone. He's out there in the crucial final minutes. So good foundation for a defensive defenseman in the NHL. And like I said, if you're picking anywhere in that range of like 5 to, he could maybe fall to 10, because this middle area here I think is a little weird, a little murky. The safest pick in that 5 to 10 range. I think you're muted, Judd.
Oh, you're correct. I was. Thank you very much. Where in these first 6 age do you think that we start with guys that might slide?
I think after 5. I think the first 4 is pretty much locked in. Catton, I think just because he's a center is where you start seeing like maybe through 5, just because people value that center so much. I think this 6 through maybe 10 is where you see a lot of like shuffling of the deck. Maybe a few surprises as somebody who is, for me at 11, he could probably go 6 based off of one single talent alone. And we'll get to that here at some point. But okay. I think the first 2 picks are pretty much set in stone. 3 should be a Levshinov unless a team desperately needs a center. Mm-hmm. And then it's just, a Levshinov or a Catton or Lidstrom, whoever's kind of left. And then 6 is where you start really seeing kind of the jumble of, do you want that defensive defenseman, or do you want a Zeev Buium, Denver prospect, NCAA?
Oh, yeah.
Left-handed defenseman, 6 foot, 183 pounds. He was the central cog in that national championship Denver team this season. He processed the game quickly. He is patient on the puck when necessary. He's kind of got everything that you want for that like pro style NHL defenseman. His puck movement in the O-zone is like purposeful. He doesn't just like walk the line to walk the line because it's going to look good on camera. He does it so that he can kind of rotate, get the defense out of position, look for passing lanes. The skill growth over the last year has been turning scouts' heads quite a bit, and his stick and puck handling controls and just the ability to kind of use his strength at times is the strength is a little bit of an issue, but I don't think it's enough to be a detriment at the NHL level, if that makes sense. It's just, I think it'll take a little longer to adjust because at 6'1", 183, you'd think he probably can, but he does seem to at times shy away slightly from that physical contact. Good defensively, great offensively. Zeev Buim, I think his stock rose big time in the national in the college playoffs.
Potential power play guy?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. And
you were high on him in AJ's rankings 1.0, correct?
Yeah, I had him, I want to say as an honorable mention, actually. Okay. Like he was just on the bubble. It's kind of like an uptick.
So he has definitely gone up. Okay.
He's definitely gone up, yes. Another guy that's gone up and also a blue liner, Zane Parekh. Zane Parekh. Saginaw Spirit in the OHL, 33 goals, 96 points, 66 games. So this is an offensive defenseman, Judd. And he's electric. Like if you watch his highlight reel, this is Erik Karlsson type stuff. This is kind of Cale Makar type stuff. Obviously, we're going to scale it back because I do have him 8th. But in terms of the playing field that he's been at here for the past season, he's electric. He's not afraid to cut down to the slot. He kind of acts like a winger at times. Like he'll similar to kind of what we saw Jake Middleton do with the Wild this year, where you're like, oh, what are you doing up there? This is a guy that you'd be like, yes, get up in the play. I feel confident in you, in your ability offensively to kind of get up in the play and do that. The problem is though with that is he roams quite a bit still, and that's where he puts his team in pretty rough predicaments at times.
That's what I was going to ask. How's the when you as electric as Erik Karlsson can be, when you say Karlsson, I think how much do you potentially suffer defensively as well? So like what's the skating like and what's the defensive responsibility like? Because it sounds like that would be the concern.
Skating super smooth like butter. Vision of passing is great. He tracks shots well. But like you said, like you're bringing up here, the defensive part is you're going to have to build quite a bit. The defensive game is going to have to be a little bit of a project. He's going to need either a defenseman, a defensive partner that's going to be able to kind of cover him quite a bit at times. Would. Yes, exactly. Like
did for Dumba. Yep.
Yes, spot on. I do think right now you could say that the pros are going to outweigh the cons, but when the cons come through, you're going to be really mad about it. So that's a spot where I think he probably has room to grow, and it's not like you're going to write him off as he's never going to be a guy that can be out there in a tough situation. Right now, it seems like he doesn't have the best knack for it. So that's the one thing. He's electric when he's in the offensive zone, but as soon as you get in that below your own blue line, you're like, all right, maybe get off the ice here.
Makes me nervous.
Coming up to 9. He was an honorable mention around the holiday time. He's jumped up, and I think this is going to be the pick of the first round. Tij Iginla.
I love it. Saw him play yesterday.
We were talking about him in the office today. We saw he was on TV yesterday with Team Canada, Kelowna Rockets in the WHL. He's 6 foot, 185 pounds. He's got 47 goals, 84 points in 64 games this year with the not the with the Kelowna Rockets, but he's developed at a rate this season that has kind of it's been insane. It was like lighting a rocket at NASA with just how much that heat and he shot up into the sky like nobody's business. And I can't wait to see him finally get taken, because I started it with him maybe at like a fringe first rounder. He's got up to like the mid-teens. He's a top 10 pick. If he doesn't get taken top 10, anytime after that 10th pick is when he's going to be, I think, considered a steal. But he's kind of got that whole package of the puck skills. The playmaking is maybe the one drawback to him, but he'll play competitively. He's got the physicality. His shot's pretty good. The competitive drive is there. He's been regarded as the best one-on-one player in the draft, which I think speaks a lot when you have guys like Celebrini, when you have Demidov, when you have a Berkeley Catton in there. But he has the kind of skating ability to where if you go shoulder to shoulder with him, you're not coming out of that board alive. Like he will bowl over you, go to the net with.
That's his old man. His old man was strong as hell.
He takes after
and tortured the Wild.
This is a pick where if he slips a little bit, I would be elated that the Wild could get him. This for Thor Nystrom for the Purple Daily Crew. This is my JJ McCarthy.
Sure.
Okay? This guy is going to be fantastic.
And I mean, I'm sorry, but if you play the game like your dad did and you're Tidge Aginla, I'll take you in a heartbeat. And like, how many sons of players have we seen who share the instincts, right?
And that's the thing.
Like that share that.
Yeah.
Like that's my thing. So yeah, I love this. And because when you did your original prospect list, I remember you had him pretty low on that list initially, but you said, I think he's far superior to this. So your JJ McCarthy comparison is perfect because clearly you talked him up, but he has also started to go up the actual rankings. And if I'm right, when I turned on the World Junior Under 18 game on Sunday in the gold medal game, the U.S. was up by 1, took a 5-minute penalty, and then I think it was a Ginla's line that scored 3 consecutive goals. Now you're muted.
There we go.
All right, I'm not the only one that does it, ladies and gentlemen.
We're trading back and forth.
Thanks, Age. Oh, I do it all the time. I'm just glad that I'm just glad that I could tell someone you're muted. Anyway, but I love this, and this would excite me for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like he can kind of do it at both ends of the ice, but he does, like you said, you need goals. You're down. You saw it against USA. He goes out there and he's kind of got that instinct. And I might be more biased because like when you had the Kachuk boys drafted in the past handful of years, it's like you just have that feeling of like, they're going to pan out to a certain extent. Maybe they're not going to be the same guy that their old man was, but same thing with Jerome. He's got Tidge and he's got Joe following 2 years behind him. I think Joe probably, you can save this one. Joe's going to be an absolute superstar. He's 16 right now, draft eligible in 2 years. Tidge is going to be also a very good impact player. I think you could maybe argue like fringe all-star every year type guy, but
so top 6 guy.
Easy top 6. I think easy top 6.
You know what? If he works like his dad did and has just even a portion of the touch, love it.
Yeah, so that's that'll be my kind of protege.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to highlight his name right now on the list. I'm highlighting his name. I'm holding you to this.
So that was the end of tier 3. So that's tier 3 right there. Starting at tier 4 with the number 10 slot, Anton Salayev, left-handed defenseman. This one kind of hurts me because similar to Tidge, I was early on him. And I was big on him.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he's dropped, and I think rightfully so. I still think the ceiling for Salayev is there. He's 6'7", 211 pounds. So this is the unicorn. If you watch the first time around,
where? I had him at 5. Christmas time. That's okay. I was going to say I remember him being high. Okay.
I had him at 5.
Right.
And the problem is he had 3 goals, 11 points back around that holiday time.
Yep.
He finished the year with 3 goals. And it's the thing about him is like, he's got the size and you got the defensive capabilities. The shot was something that people were saying, oh, he's working out the rough patches there. He's a little trigger happy, but nothing changed, which is, it's frustrating because he's got a lot of the other talents, but he's super trigger happy. You see him kind of like I was talking about with maybe Levshinov earlier. He doesn't rush anything. It's the opposite here. You're gonna get a little shaky. He feels maybe the pressure, and he's like, I have to get the puck away. I have to let a shot go out. Even if there's 7 guys standing in front of him, he's gonna let a shot fire. So in the offensive zone, little bit of a liability, which you could argue maybe
6'7" does intrigue me.
That's the thing. Like
if the skating is there, 6'7" does intrigue me.
And that's the thing about his skating. He's kind of like a gazelle. You'd think he skates like a guy who's 5'7", not 6'7".
Interesting.
So he's got the edge work, he's got the defensive capabilities, and would you believe it? He uses his size to his advantage. 6'7", he absolutely lays
Then I'm intrigued.
waste. He lays waste to the opposition. So he stays top 10, I think, solely because of that. He's NHL ready physicality wise right now. This is a guy who's going to, playoff wise, you get out there, he's laying the boom, he's blocking shots. He will do the dirty work. It's just there's a lot to be desired in terms of getting to that eventual ceiling. But if he does reach that ceiling, you're going to be like, how did he fall this far?
Right. Well, that's, I mean, dare I say, it sounds a little bit Chara-like. Because Chara's career, he was not Zdeno Chara when he entered the league. I think it was with, if I'm not mistaken, the Senators and then the Islanders, right?
Yes.
And like when you're 6'7", there's going to be things that are just going to take more time. But if you're telling me it's the offensive end, like if you said defensively, there's problems, I'd say, okay, I'm probably good then. But 6'7", a good defensive player who can be developed offensively and probably again will grow into that size. That is, that's an intriguing one. That's really intriguing.
Yeah, if you can see him find that kind of game we saw right around the holiday, because he started off super hot and then it kind of tapered off.
Sure.
So he's fallen a lot more so because you've seen him at the top of his game a lot less than some of these other guys. That's the biggest reason why he's dropped so much.
That might be the steal of there you go. The pick then, potentially, because of that fall. Okay.
Out of the top 10 here, Cole Yzerman, probably the most disappointing in my mind since the holiday time. I had him, if I check my notes correctly, I had him third when we last talked.
Wow.
6 foot, 197 pounds, 49 goals and 76 points in 49 games. So a goal a game with the US U18 team. His scoring ability is second to none. And the sole reason why he's still projected this high, the issue is, as much as his shooting ability and scoring ability impresses, nothing really else does. And that's the problem here. He's later on in the list here, we have like a kind of jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife type guy. This is about as one trick pony as it gets. This is you need a scorer, you need that finisher, you need that type of one dimensional. He's going to put the puck in the net for you. This is where Cole Yzerman factors in. And so a team might, I think, reach on this solely because you know what he can do. He scores goals. Whether it's quick, concise, powerful, he's accurate. He's able to, we've talked about this with Kirill Kaprizov. He can kind of contortion his body to a way where he doesn't need a clean pass to like get a good shot off. He does all that super well. He can do it from low angles. He has the power shot at the top of the slot. He can do it anywhere. The problem is he does also use his size decently well. There's still a little bit of room for improvement there, but defensively, it's non-existent. His skating needs a lot of work. He just can't create any separation, and that's where a lot of scouts are kind of like hesitant about where...
That's interesting.
You need a little separation to get these shots off, Cole, but right now there's just nothing there. So he's still as high as he is solely for his scoring ability. He's been talked about as like, it's one of the best natural goal scorers in the draft since Austin Matthews. It's just Austin Matthews has a lot more to his game. This is basically only scoring and a little bit of physicality. So that's the big issue here with Cole Yzerman.
So let's try and put the size aside a bit because that comparison is not as applicable. But what is the commonality between Cole Yzerman and Cole Caulfield, for instance? Because, you know, Caulfield had that. He had that ability to score. And look, I'm never going to put that down because some guys just have it and it doesn't abandon them. So like how much work, in your opinion, is needed to get him to a place where a coach would be comfortable playing him? Because that's the key is if you can't back check or won't, it's a really tough road to actually get on the ice consistently.
Yeah, I'd say first, this is personally, I think the comparison there is Cole Caulfield had more of a passing ability when he came into the league too. Sure. Whereas I think Yzerman, he's got to work on that first and then the defensive zone, where right now you don't see a lot of like him setting up the play. He's kind of getting the secondary assists. He's He's the asset. He's the secondary guy. He's not really driving the play, creating the opportunities. He's the end result. He's the exclamation point on a lot of these goals because his teammates are setting him up in pretty decent spots, and then he's doing that heavy lifting to actually put the puck in the net. He's not doing the opposite end of that, whereas, driving the puck around, kind of QBing a power play or anything like that.
Right.
And then on the defensive side, yeah, there's quite a bit of work. I think you'd probably get him in 2 years because he's going to Boston College. He's committed to Boston College and he'll start there next year. Good but program. I think it's 2 seasons of they need to get him. And I think Boston College is probably the right place to go to develop a little bit more of those aspects of games. So that's the nice thing there. I think in 2 years, you're going to feel a little more comfortable about maybe he makes a roster or he goes back to Boston College another year.
Interesting. So when you put this together for this time, Age, and dropped him from 3 to 11, are you comfortable with that far a drop? Or if it was personally up to you, do you think he still could sneak back in top 10?
Well, I had him
bottom half of the top 10.
Bottom half of the top 10, I think, is absolutely, and that's where I was kind of saying like that. Once you get to 6, there's a handful of defensemen. Sure. So if a team wants an elite goal scorer, he could absolutely jump back in.
Sure.
I think this is like a 3rd or 4th draft of this, and he was like the biggest change where I think I had him 7, 9, 8.
Okay.
And then out to 11 after I kind of.
Okay.
So like he definitely could be right up in that mix of late first half of the 10s. So.
All right.
So 11 is Cole Eiersman to 12. Previously 9, Konsta Helenius in the Finnish product Tappara in Liga. He was actually he was on loan this past year, but 14 goals, 36 points in 51 games. He was on loan with Jukurit. This guy's a natural playmaker. He's kind of like and you're going to hate this, your average Finnish center. He's kind of got that Mikko Koivu. He's kind of got that Michael Brandon.
Number then.
Retire it. Hang it up right now.
Draft him and retire the number immediately.
His passing ability and his drive to compete are what really impresses a lot of scouts and coaches. Like this guy is about as coachable and willing to change his own game to benefit the style as anybody as they come. Blue collar, easy to root for. He plays a really good 200-foot game. He'll go to the dirty areas in his own zone as well as in the offensive zone. He's not the biggest. He's 5'11", 180 pounds. He doesn't shy away from any of that, though. He's just a hard-working center. He's projected to probably be top 6. Frankly, that's just because he's a center. He's going to be a guy that probably slots in on that second line who is able to. If he's paired with a decent winger, he's going to get a lot of assists. Like it'll be a good setup there. It's just, I wish he was a little bigger and had a little bit more knack for scoring. But for the most part, I mean, he's going to be fine. He's not going to maybe
you sound bored with him. You sound bored with him. Sounds like you had to be tortured to stick him in here. And now he sounds like he's a boring player who's just going to show up.
We definitely have a drop off after 11. He's
so is this tier 5?
No, it's not actually. It's not. It's tier 4.
You tortured him into tier 4. Okay.
The problem is he's not gonna. He is boring, but he's a kind of what every team needs to an extent. Like you need that boring guy. Every house has one room that's painted beige, right? For one reason or another. This is your beige room, but because you kind of need it. Like he's going to get out there and kill time. He's going to get out there and, dish the puck around.
This doesn't sound what I want on my team though.
No, it's not. And if the Wild took him, I would be very, very disappointed.
All
moving
right.
to a guy.
Hey, before you get to that pick, because that's the 13th pick. So right now, AJ is projecting possibly who the Wild might take, assuming that they stay at 13 when the lottery is held on Tuesday. This pick, or this prediction, is going to be brought to you by our friends at Nicolay Law. That's exactly right. Our new partner, Nicolay Law. They know when you or a loved one gets injured, ordinary life can come to a stop and things can get complicated. During that time, insurance companies are likely to pressure you. They don't care if you get better. They don't care if your medical bills are piling up, and they don't care that you may not be able to work, but Nicolay Law does. They have seen every play the insurance companies have, and they will drop their gloves to make sure you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get Nicolay. Start your path to winning at nicolaylaw.com or give them a call, 1-855-NICOLAY. That's Nicolet, Nicolet, Nicolay Law. Now to 13.
13. Carter Yakemchuk. It kind of just rolls off the tongue. It's a good hockey name.
It's a very good hockey name.
This is a right-handed defenseman, previously unranked. He's had a pretty decent second half of the year.
Yeah.
He's 6'3", 194 pounds, 30 goals, 71 points in 66 games this year with the Calgary Hitmen in the WHL. This guy is one of the oldest players in this year's draft, Judd, and he's got a similar stat to that of Zane Parekh. The problem is, though, this isn't a problem, but he's slightly bigger and more physical, but it's his offensive ability. This is an offensive defenseman that plays a little more defense than a Parekh, but his offensive ability is about a tier lower than Parekh, so which is why he slots down as far as 13. I think he could probably maybe go a little bit higher. I think him and Salayev are somewhat interchangeable just based off the sense where you know a little bit more of what you're getting with Yakemchuk, whereas it's kind of a hidden map, so to speak, with Salayev. But the size and the puck handling ability here is what's to love. Being able to go one-on-one and shield the puck allows him to drive along the wall, kind of cut inside. His skating and offensive instincts flash. You just hope for a little more defensively. The thing is, though, his size benefits him in the defensive zone, so he's kind of got the tools in the frame already set. He just needs that kind of coaching to get him up to speed there. So the D-zone IQ does lack, and that's probably the biggest thing where he's going to have to do a lot of homework to really get up to snuff there. I think some time either back in juniors or in the AHL is going to be mandatory for a guy like this. But, the biggest thing personally, he's super undisciplined. This guy was 5th in PIMS last year in the WHL.
No. You're losing me now.
Yeah, super undisciplined. So there is a lot of pros, but boy, are there some cons. And the undisciplinedness is kind of a killer in my mind, which is why he slots as low as 13th.
So Parekh is a bigger liability defensively, but has way more upside. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm reading it that way, interpreting it that way.
Yeah. Parekh, like top tier, maybe the best offensive defenseman in this draft, but his defense lacks big time. This guy about the same defensively, but the thing is he's bigger. He's 6'3". He's got the frame already, and his IQ there it lacks. So
that hurts him.
Yeah,
I can't have PIMS.
No, if you're taking a guy this high in the draft, he's got to at least be on the ice. That's the biggest thing.
Yes, exactly right. All right.
To 14, another unranked guy previously, Liam Greentree. Great. Windsor Spitfires. He's a right winger, 6'2", 198 pounds. He had 36 goals, 90 points in 64 games with the Spitfires this year. I kind of mentioned earlier, you had the specializer in Cole Iserman. Scoring, that's his one thing. This is the jack of all trades, but maybe a master of none. Swiss Army knife is probably the easier term there, the nicer term there. A high motor competitor. He places himself in the play constantly, which is something, I mean, we talked about this with Husnudinov when he first came over. He's not afraid to get in the dirty areas and go to where you think the puck is going to be. Greentree tracks the puck well. He anticipates the play well, and he's never shy to actually get into that play, whether or not he's going to get roughed up. He's got the size to where he can kind of believe in himself there, which is good. It's just, he doesn't, his skill probably isn't what you're going to find in a top 10 pick. So that it drops significantly here. Solid 200-foot pro style game with a solid enough shot and other kind of like pro habits is what they say. So his game isn't going to flash or be super dynamic, but with his size and kind of skill foundation, like the tools that are there, there's probably a top 6 power forward that if you mold him correctly, he's a decent piece for an NHL lineup. He's just not going to like wow you, and he's not going to get the spotlight a lot, but you're going to be like, okay, Yeah, I'm glad you're here. You benefited. You're going to have your week here.
What
and
caused
there
his rise from outside the prospect pool to inside your top 15?
A lot of the off the ice stuff is like he shows up early, he stays late, he gets the extra work in.
A rink rat.
Yeah, this is a guy that he loves the game. And that's like, who is it? Mark Scheifele, I want to say, with the Jets, where it's like off the ice, he's watching hockey, he's out with a party, he's over by the bar, by the TV, watching whatever game's on. This guy eats, sleep, breathes hockey, and you've seen his game kind of progress. Like I said, you're not getting like monumental steps here and there. He's not going to wow you with unbelievable stick handling, but he does a lot of the right things. And so putting himself in the right positions, going back to probably his biggest strength, is just his IQ and probably work motor. He's got the skills to where in the right development program that a team places him in, he's probably going to blossom into something of a decent prospect. It's just right now there's a lot of question marks about how high he can actually get with those certain skills.
All right. Last but not least,
right winger. Previously an honorable mention, Michael Brandsegg-Nygaard. He is over with Mora IK in Europe. He's 6'1", 198 pounds, 8 goals, 18 points in 41 games. Most of those points, Judd, coming on the power play. So this is about as kind of middle six wingers they come, but for some reason, he's just got a knack for special teams. He's out there dictating the play, kind of QBing power play units. He finds the right zones. He can park himself out front with that 6'1" frame. He's not afraid to he's got the Pavelski tip drill down. He's out there kind of working on that, but he's also good at
like that.
The vision and the passing. He loves kind of toying with the opposition when they're a man down. So that's where you kind of factor him in. He's not afraid to throw a body around. He's not really dynamic in the most sense, but for some reason, this guy, he's just good on the power play. So I think a lot of teams, I mean, who was it? Who was it that just had a 5% power play conversion rate in the playoffs in the first round? Was it the Maple Leafs? I want to say. Somebody was just abysmal. That's a guy that probably gets picked up there. Just in the sense where he's going to bring that one aspect, but he's going to have to probably raise a lot of the other things. Like his skating needs work. His overall shooting and passing probably need a little bit of work. His defensive game is all right, probably needs work. It's a lot of middle of the road stuff, but the power play specialty, it's there. I do have one last name for you here. One last name. Honorable mention, Adam Jiricek, right-handed defenseman. He's over in Czechia. The problem is here, he was injured at the World Juniors, out for the season. He was probably projecting to be like a late top 10, just outside of the top 10 draft pick. But there's just been so much speculation as like how much has this injury halted his progress, stunted his growth and development, all that stuff. This might be, I think a team definitely takes him in the first round. Anything above 15, I think, is a huge, huge gamble. This is like a end of the first round. It'll be considered maybe a steal, and you can maybe pass as like there's a lot of upside here, but I think there's just better products in this top 15 to where it would be such a risk. And I'm not going to say a waste of a pick because we saw what he was before getting injured. It's just, you're taking too much of a gamble when there's other, I'm not going to say sure things on the board, but this is the biggest question mark, I think, besides maybe Salayev going around that top 10. Who knows how he comes back after a pretty brutal injury.
I was going to ask, do we know what the injury was?
Yes, I believe, if my memory served me right, it was a knee. Let me see here.
That's not necessarily good news then.
No, but he's got the brother David Jiricek, who is with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I just can't actually find, I don't have it right in front of me, but memory serves me right. And I can definitely stand to be corrected here. I believe it was a knee injury that happened. He got crumpled up along the boards and just kind of, it was one of those like, bent in the wrong direction. So we'll have to see how it is. But at the end of the day, big question mark with Jiricek. We'll have to see what team does want to take a stab at him.
Lower body, don't say knee. I just saw it. At the World Juniors, they won't even tell you what's wrong. Most ridiculous thing. So if you could pick 11 through 15, if you had one selection, you're Bill Guerin, let's just say you're at 13, they don't move, who would you take? So if 11 through 15 fell in you get to pick one, who do you take?
All right. So if and this is tough, I would say. This is pretty
cutting
tough.
Out the top 10. You can't get at the top 10.
If I am sitting there thinking what I want to do.
Yep.
It's going to be tough because with Bill Guerin, I thought for the longest time defense was going to be the way. So I said I thought Yekemchuk, despite the undisciplinedness, despite the kind of lack of defensive skills, you're kind of forcing your hand there. I want to say if Yzerman is there at 13, just by like this slipping, that's the guy to go with, because he can play on that. He can play on that left side, but I think he could also be open to switching to the right. That would allow you to maybe move a Matt Boldy to the right side. And I know that's not his natural spot, but I think he'd be fine with playing there at times. It's just his scoring is too much at, let's say they pick 13. It's too much to pass up on. It's an elite guy who finds the back of the net.
Yep.
And I think he gets to the NHL at some point, but he's going to be a big liability. He does have a lot of work in every other facet of his game, which is tough.
Yep.
But I mean, this is a guy that was projected third, and he's probably going to he could go top 10 solely based on his scoring ability. And that's, I think, speaks.
And if it's correctable problems,
yeah,
or skate or coaching as far as power skating goes. But yeah, goal scoring is hard to pass up. In fact, when I think it was Paul Fenton took Boldy instead of Caulfield, despite Cole's size, there were a lot of people that said, how could you pass up on this guy? Because he was and is a natural goal scorer. Now, I think Boldy's been just fine. Thank you very much. But that being said, it would be intriguing. And to your point, there was a reason why, at least around the holidays, Yzerman was 3, and now in your list has fallen outside the top 10. All right,
best case scenario for a 13 pick. A lot of jumble in that 6 to 13-ish range. Either Iginla or Buium. Buium would be, I think, my best realistic defensive opportunity there.
Okay.
And like I said, he's
won a championship at the X.
Yeah, I mean,
why not a Stanley Cup?
Well, that's the next thing on his checklist. Why not?
I mean, he's already won an NC2A championship. Why not a cup? Age, great stuff. We'll probably do this one more time before the draft actually hits. Perfect. And plan on being back on Wednesday with Age and Jesse Pierce to talk about, among other things, where the Wild will fall in the draft, and plus an update that I have on the Wild's TV situation since the Comcast debacle means that right now you can't watch the Twins. So the question is, can you watch the Wild next season? We'll talk about that as well. He's Age, I'm Judd. Judd's Hockey Show. Thanks for watching.